Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to No Filter Gen Z. We are young Americans fighting to defend the truth. I'm Camden, I'm your host, and we have Fadana and Lydia today. Welcome back to the show, guys. How you guys doing?
Hi, good. I'm doing
Doing
good.
good. The weather
Awesome.
is nice.
It's amazing. Can't complain at all. There's nothing to complain about. But
No.
guys, today we're going to talk about some school system stuff because I believe that the school system has a big part to play in how children are growing up with certain issues today. And it's kind of going behind the scenes and being blinded from the parents because they're just trusting the government with the school system, the public schools, and they don't really know what's exactly is going on. So there's a few things I wanted to talk about. Starting with a story I just saw yesterday, which has been going on for a few years, but it's a court case. I want to show you guys something real quick. So there's this kid who's been going to school, and he was sent home from school for wearing a shirt that said there are only two genders. And then the court in Massachusetts ruled that it was okay to ban that and that he wouldn't be allowed to wear it. So, I mean, what are you guys' thoughts about that? Because I feel like people are wearing all sorts of things about pride and BLM and anything they want, but then when someone sticks up for the other side like this, they get banned. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was gonna use the same thing that like there are probably plenty of kids running around wearing stuff that uplifts pride, and they're indoctrinated that way. And so I don't understand.
I
I
mean,
mean, I do get obviously because this is the times we're living in and this is the supposed controversies that are being brought up when this should not be controversial. This is basic science. Um, so I feel for this kid, honestly, because so many things are being thrown around. I mean, I've seen like teachers on TikTok and they're like, they take down the American flag in their room and they're like, we're pledging allegiance to the pride flag.
yeah, I've seen that too. It's
Yeah.
like they don't want to be American. They're like all anti-American, but then when
Yep.
someone shows up with a godly value, something that he believes in, he
Hmm.
can't wear it. So I feel like if we're gonna have free speech like that, it should be on both sides. What do you think, Fadana?
Well, to be honest with you, if there's not two genders, then how many genders are there, you know? And I think it's just bringing more and more confusion. Like, what does biology teaches us? There are
Exactly.
two genders. Like, if they're banning this kid from wearing this shirt, then what are they teaching in the science courses nowadays?
E-
That's my question.
Exactly. And these kids are going to school to learn. They should be learning, reading, writing, math, and science. But then something as scientific as your gender, you can't even wear that to school. It does seem a little weird, doesn't it? And it makes you,
It seems like they're banning freedom of speech
yeah,
because other kids, when I used to go to high school or college, would wear shirts that could offend me, but I wasn't going to say, well, I'm offended. That's their freedom of speech.
and so
And
it should be on both
that can't,
sides.
it's very controversial what the left is trying to do. I feel like as a judge, you should be able to judge rightly. And if you can't judge rightly, why are you even a judge to
Yeah, so
begin with?
I mean, they got up to the court in Massachusetts and they told them that this was not free speech, I guess. And so now they're trying to get to the Supreme Court with it, which they should because this is ridiculous. It makes me wonder what they're actually learning in science class nowadays. Like, if you can't teach that there's two genders and that's how you make a baby, like, what are you teaching? XY and XX chromosomes. That's what I learned when I was in school. Like, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
it's
insane.
beyond me at this point, the stupidity. It's like we're not even evolving, we're just going a couple steps
It
backwards.
seems like it. We're getting
Yeah.
dumber. Like it's so
Yes.
basic. But then, if you're the other side and you wear it, probably I guarantee if someone were to come with a there are 72 genders shirt or something about anything more than two, they would be fine. But then when
Oh
you're
yeah.
Right.
when you're to the truth, we know that what happens when you spread the truth. People try to stop it, but it
They would
just
probably get praised for it. They'd be like,
yeah,
"Oh, look at you, so inclusive." Like,
yeah,
no.
it's
It's
crazy.
crazy.
It just I don't think parents really realize that's going on right now in
Yeah.
a normal school system that you're just taking your kid to a public school and you don't think that these things are happening, but it is. And something else that's happening in the classrooms are pride flags are being allowed in all these public schools classrooms, but Bibles are not. If you're going to ban Bibles, why are you okay with pride flags. I feel like the whole LGBTQ thing is becoming a religion to them. And so if you're gonna do all this and force that on kids, that should be something in a private school. If you're gonna make Christian stuff in a private school, you know, if you're not gonna
Yeah.
allow public schools to have Bibles, why should you allow this stuff in the classrooms?
Right. I don't see a heterosexual flag. I don't see someone who's a heterosexual saying, I'm a heterosexual, here's my flag. Like, it's just, it's weird when people are promoting their sexuality. It's like nobody cares what you do behind closed doors. Just don't force it down people's throat. Like, whatever you do behind closed door, that's your business between God.
Yeah,
That is your business between you and God. Just don't force it down on other people. If
Yeah.
they're gonna ban this kid from wearing the shirt, they should ban that stupid flag that they be having at the schools.
Yep.
exactly. I mean, that
I
is.
want to see a heterosexual flag. I
Yeah,
really do.
where's our flag?
If
Where's our
I was a parent right now and my kids were going to school, I would be scared for them because you know we wonder why there's so many mental problems and school shootings and like all this mental stuff. It's because these school systems are bringing up kids confused. They don't
Mm.
know how many genders there are. They don't know their identity because they're forcing these flags on people saying that, you know, you can change your gender as you how you feel, right? So
Right.
no wonder there's so many problems today. I feel like the school system is like at the core of where you're learning who you are, what you're learning how the world works. And when they use things like this, I feel like it just completely confuses children. What do you think, Lydia?
It does. I mean,
Yeah.
look at the kids that be going to school wearing putting a tail behind their behind. Like that should
Yeah.
be highly
It's
offensive.
crazy.
And I don't see them banning that from the school. They can tell these kids they can become an animal and all sorts of stuff. But the moment someone will wear a shirt that speaks the truth is problematic.
Yeah.
Well, kids are impressionable. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, they're easily swayed one way or the next. You tell them one thing, they're going to take it and run with it because they truly believe that about themselves.
Yeah.
And they haven't actually like I mean, your studies show that like your brain doesn't really fully develop till you're 25, like your frontal lobe. I mean, that's a long time. I mean, I haven't even reached 25 and just
Exactly.
to think
Yeah, me
about
neither.
yeah, in the next several years when I do, I mean, who knows, where my maturity might be then. But
I,
yeah.
I think that the parents should be able to teach their kids this stuff. Like, okay, if you're a parent,
Mhm.
you should have the right to say whatever. If you really want them to learn about this stuff, then do it there in your homes, not in the
Yep.
classroom where they're going to learn, education. That's not education; it's indoctrination at this point. I feel like that's
Right,
the issue with these schools.
right.
Yeah.
I have yet to meet the other genders, so let me know when you guys find them because I have yet to meet them.
For real, it's not even a thing. But there's so many more things going on in schools. But Trump actually, he's president elect now. But when he was campaigning, he was talking about the indoctrination and stuff. So I do want to show a clip real quick that is him talking about what he plans to do on day one when he gets in with all this stuff. So let's watch this clip. All right.
Beautiful capital in the world. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children.
How could you not want that? How could you not want someone that is literally standing up for children at this point? This is amazing. He says, I hope this is true too. I hope on day one he does this because there are plenty of schools. Even my mom had, the homeschool curriculum. She took things out of my siblings' stuff that were about saying that you can change your gender when you want to. It's transgender insanity, like he's saying here. And critical race theory, teaching kids that they're racist if they're white and they're inherently racist just because of how they're raised. It's ridiculous. And Trump is, this is what I want. What do you guys want? What do you guys think about him saying this stuff?
I think this is absolutely amazing. I mean, it's just so dangerous when you look at like what you just said about the homeschool books. Like
Yeah.
your mom had to take that's insane that like I mean it also is not surprising because we know it's happening right now.
Mm-hmm.
But still when you hear it happen to someone that it's like, "Oh my God, like this is so real."
Makes it real,
But
yeah.
yeah, but
Right.
I'm so 100% for this. This makes me so happy that he's going to protect children's education and he's going to because he knows it's sacred and he knows that that are being taught. Once again, kids are so impressionable.
Yeah.
We need to teach them the truth
Yeah,
in order for them to digest.
exactly. And he says any inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content. That's exactly what I want for my kids when they're going to school. I don't want them to
Yes.
learn about these things that aren't even educational, you know?
Yep.
It's
Exactly. And even with Trump's message, I feel like just like he's promoting MAGA, I feel like he's promoting common sense again.
pretty much.
You know, like all these pointers are basically just plain simple common sense.
Yeah.
Like kids should not be forced to change their gender. Like the fact that teachers are advocating this, are persuading kids, are putting these messages in these kids' minds is bringing more and more confusion. There's already enough confusion in the world as it is.
Yeah.
If someone wants to change their gender, wait till you're 18 or when you're 25 where you can really make these decisions. But until then, don't. I also blame the parents too, to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you, because I feel like if you're going to have a child and you're going to think that the public school system is going to raise your child, that should be a major red flag for you. Because as a parent, you should be more invested into your child than the public school system, than the government.
Yeah.
So some of the parents, I don't think they're doing a great job.
And a little bit of that has come from the rise of feminism, I think, because this the new feminist movement where they're empowering women to work, work, work. And then so what happens is if you have a woman that works all day long every day and a man that works all day long every day and you have kids, they're going to be raised by other people.
Yep.
The school system's going to raise them and teach them things that you should be teaching them. And so is like the daycare, all these things. And yeah, some people have to do that because of their circumstances, but I'm just saying I think it's a valid point that like if you're not the one raising your children, someone else is, and I think that's what's happening in the schools right now.
Right. And I think there needs to be more and more stronger masculine men that have ambition, that are working hard, and in case they want to pursue a woman for her to be his wife, that way he will provide, be a provider,
Exactly.
protector, and leader for the family. And I think that's the reason why we're seeing an increase in the feminist movement,
Yeah.
because there's not enough men that are stepping up and saying enough is enough.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it's the family unit. That's exactly what it's
Mhm.
about. If it's done right, it works. Like surprise, God's design works, but we just stray away
Yeah.
from it.
No, you're so right. I mean, traditional values are so vital, and it's being lost now. But I really think that Trump is really trying his hardest to bring this back, like the nuclear family, like
Yeah,
the values that were once instilled into American culture. I think when that starts to come back into picture, and this is like the first step of what Trump
it
wants to
is.
do. So it's going to start coming back in these next 4 years. I'm so excited.
And he says that on day one. I really, really hope he does that on day one because I'm gonna hold him to it. He said a lot of things, and last time he was in office, he delivered. So I'm hoping the same thing happens in these 4 years. But Fadana, you mentioned a good point about the changing your gender under 18 because this is a controversial thing somehow that you can transition and stuff. But something in the school systems that's also happening is the school nurses in some states have more power than parents right now because if your kid is in it tends to be the liberal democratic states like Minnesota. Tim Walz signed a bill about this that when you go to school and if you go to the school nurse, they can prescribe you to go and talk to people about this stuff transition without your parents knowing about it. And that is the line. Like you can't. That's way past the line for me. If the schools are allowing you to even get to the point where you're having a conversation about that without the parents, we've messed up. Like we're going the wrong way. What do you guys think about? I guess the whole situation of children trying to transition and maybe being groomed by the school system.
Yeah, I mean, you're bypassing the parents entirely. You're completely just stripping them of their rights
Yeah.
that way. And that's a really scary thought to know that that is going on right now. And the parents, the thing is, the kids couldn't even, they may not even mention anything remotely to their parents. So their parents have absolutely no idea that this is going on. And they don't even know that their kids may be even dealing with these things mentally to be able to address these issues at home.
Yeah.
But if they're being addressed by someone else and affirmed by someone else, that's when it becomes dangerous. And especially being under 18, of course, I mean, you're not even legal yet, but I think about like this is even happening in elementary schools and things like that.
Mm,
And so
it's sad.
it's just it's
It really is sad.
mhm.
And I think too, the parents need to step up and rise up and realize that they need to stop co-parenting with the government.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if the government is telling the teachers to pass this message to the little kids when the little kids don't have any kind of sense, teachers are supposed to educate. They're not supposed to be promoting a certain agenda. I don't
Mm-hmm.
see Christian teachers going and trying to make an altar call for these kids to give their lives to Christ. I don't see that, and if that was happening, we would have see it happening in the news all over. How come we're constantly hearing about these woke teachers that are constantly doing that? And I think that's the reason why we're seeing an increase with the homeschool movement,
Yeah.
because parents are saying enough is enough because they can't even trust the teachers to do their job. Your job is to teach the kids reading, math, and
Common
science.
sense.
Nothing beyond that. Anything that they have that they're concerned about, your job is to tell the kid to go and speak to the parents. It's not for you to state your opinion because your opinions don't matter. Your job is to simply
Go
teach.
off. Holy
Yeah.
cow, that was good. That was a good little spiel. But I will say, and you're exactly right. But something else that happens is since there's the federal Department of Education right now in the government, they have a lot of control over these curriculums. And I think one of the first steps, and this is also something that a lot of people disagree with, but I think one of the first steps is abolishing the U.S. Department of Education and bringing it back to the states and letting the states have more control over the curriculums. That's how you're going to get the
That's
stuff,
how it should be done.
and that's how
Yeah.
you're going to get the stuff back to the voters, because then we will be the ones deciding what's going to, what these kids are going to learn about through elections and who we're electing to the school boards and things like that. Not the U.S. Department of Education that controls everything. I don't like that. I think it's a great idea to get it back to the states. Lydia, how do you feel?
Yeah, well, I would first say like I love the fact that private schools exist
Mm,
because I graduated from a private school, Christian private school actually, and just that they're not, being directed by the federal government to that extent. I mean, they can teach Christian-based, biblical-based curriculum materials, and that's like the danger of public school that way. But if it really was brought back to the states and it was kind of like that across the board, not only for private school, but they were able to kind of decide the common sense that they wanted to teach, I think that is great. And I also am so thankful for where we live in the state that we live,
yeah.
and that are as far as how education runs here, even though federally, obviously, very different, but
Yeah,
that
but
we're
we have
still
leaders that are actually trying to change it.
they're trying to help.
I mean, we saw
Yes.
DeSantis lately trying to pass this bill about getting these completely indoctrinating books out of the libraries and schools. I've actually seen them in person. I'm not even kidding. I saw a book about a baby trying to choose its own gender. Like, this stuff is ridiculous. And they can LGBTQ community can say this is taking away their rights, but it's not your rights. It's the parents' rights to have the control over what is going into these things. Like, you can go and get whatever you want, but don't force it onto the children. That's where I'm like, if you're older, okay, do whatever you want. Don't put it on the children, my children. Parents do need to step up, like Fadana was saying, because that's
Yes.
the only first step solution.
Yeah.
And then not only that, but just like Trump had mentioned, leaving the abortion rights to the states, it
Mm,
should be the same thing with the educational system.
I agree.
That shouldn't be anything different. And they just need to eradicate even the FDA in the educational system and just leave it all to the state with what comes into the states. And because within the state, it's its own government. It shouldn't be the president itself that has that much power to control what these kids are learning, especially if a certain president has a certain agenda.
Mm-hmm. You're exactly right. And when you see one president all for bringing it back to the states and one president who wants it to be big government, don't you think that is a sign that they want the control? Like, why would you not want to
Problematic.
go with the person that wants to give the power back to the people? Like,
Right,
that's exactly what it should be like.
right,
And if you look at the Constitution, that's what it says. We're independent
right.
states. We have our own governments, and then we're all under a bigger one that's supposed to protect us, you know,
Right.
military and stuff.
And I
Yeah.
think too, also, sometimes when people get elected to be a president, they forget that they are a servant for the people
Mm,
and not
Yep.
the other way around. And
Hmm.
so I think that's something that they need to get in their head. If I'm coming into this position, my job is to serve the people, not to serve my ideology
yeah,
of what I want, just fake fairy tales that you want to see come to pass. Your job is to simply serve the people. And if you do not have a servant heart, you have no business being in a governmental position.
that's
None
good.
at all.
Yep.
That's
Yep. I
exactly
mean,
right.
it's an agenda at this point. I mean, it is, you know, man for himself that way. And I so agree that it's their first job is for the people. Like that's what they're in their position for, because they're an advocate. They're supposed to be a spokesperson for American citizens or wherever their jurisdiction is as far as where their leadership lies.
Yeah, and
Right.
that's what democracy is about. It's
Yeah.
about electing someone that you want, and even a republic. Like both of these things are what we're electing people on our behalf to serve
Right.
us with the things we elected them for. And that you're
Right.
right about that. And you know, I agree with you too about the online and the homeschools becoming more of a thing now because you know honestly I'm gonna say that I think COVID could have been a blessing in disguise for us because God takes what the enemy meant for evil and uses it for good, and you could use
Yes.
that. And now looking back to see all the stuff going on in the schools, maybe COVID brought these homeschool programs to on a higher level for parents to get their rights back to teach the kids what they want again.
Wow. That's so
I
good.
truly second that. I think there's definitely revivals happening in the schools. And people who don't know what revival is, it basically means changes that are going to be happening. And I believe that for such a time as this, we're going to see more changes for the better
Yeah.
of the United States citizens because parents are tired. I mean, if we see mostly all the states turn red, I think that should be enough for everyone to realize parents are tired and they're saying enough is enough.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
speaking on the whole school system stuff, we are all the young adults, right? So, Fidana, you graduated college. Lydia, me and you are in college. So let's talk about that for a second. What do you guys think about colleges being? You know, it seems like they're all pretty liberal unless they're a private college. Fidana, you have experience in like a private college, right?
Hmm.
So how did you? What do you think about that experience?
To be honest with you, I think because most of my life I went to public school system, and back when I was going to school, the woke agenda was not, I guess, as in your face like it
Yeah.
is like today, you know? And then when I also went to a Christian college, like the moment you step into the class, the professor is praying, which is something that I've never seen
Mm,
in a public school system. And then not only that, but they teach off Christian ideology. In a public school system, I've never seen any of that happening. And then, even too, I feel like when you go to a public school, like your way of viewing things can become like a little bit woke,
mm-hmm.
as opposed to go into a Christian college. So I think people should try both. So then that way they can be able to view the world in a balanced way. Because if you're only going one way and you haven't tried the other way, I feel like your view of the world is going to be very narrow.
Yeah, and I think that I've actually seen a lot of people go into college as a conservative and come out liberal because of
Right.
the just the way that things are taught and like the liberal programs everywhere. It almost shapes your view of the world, like you were saying. Lydia, have you seen anything like that on your campus? Is there anything that sticks out to you at all?
Well, I mean, I do go to a community college, so I think it's a little more mild compared to the bigger
Yeah.
public state schools. I have noticed some professors, there is a slight lean in the left. Then I have some that have been pretty like neutral,
That's good.
which I appreciate. But they still, it's funny because like even in some classes that aren't even politically driven or even about history, like they'll bring their 2 cents in, which don't know if that's really necessary, especially the kind of things that they're saying. But it's definitely not as bad. And it's funny because I had reverse of what Fadana did. I mean, I grew up all through middle and high school. I mean, like our teachers would pray with us. My curriculum was all biblically based, and I'm so thankful for that foundation that I can at least go into college having that understanding and be able to spot things when I see them, especially
Mm.
in like science classes as well. Basic biology, I hear my professors talking about, oh, like the earth was so and so billion years old, and then you hear that and then you're like, oh, well, clearly that's not what we believe. And so even not even on like a political level, but also a scientific level,
It's
it's
almost like you have the armor of God on you because how you were raised. So now
Right.
you go out and you have sense, and you can rely on like the Holy Spirit and things like that because you were raised like that.
exactly, it's
Right.
discernment for sure now.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
I go to USF. It's a university in Florida, and I went to a state college before that, a community college, which I actually do agree with you. I think the community colleges do a way better job at keeping it more moderate. But the
Yeah.
universities, at least the one I go to, is so liberal that one of my friend's teachers actually said in a class, which I don't think you're allowed to do this, but they said they were just, I don't even know how they brought it up, but they were just talking and said that if we didn't react to 9/11, that there would be peace in the world. I was like, what? How un-American can you get? How can you even be a citizen here and believe that and say that to your students?
Wow. I mean, we're defending our own. I don't know how that would even result in peace. That
Yeah,
seems
peace. It would make the United States in pieces, maybe.
that's true.
I mean, I'm just saying, if we don't do anything, that's ridiculous. And this
My
guy is so,
God.
oh my gosh, I can't even imagine saying something like that and living in the free country that you live in. It's like you're taking everything for granted at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's some crazy stuff. And I also too think too, um, at your home, if spirituality isn't something that's taught, that's not something that's going to be at the forefront of your mind
Yeah.
when you go to a certain school. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you didn't grow up in a religious home, it won't matter to you. But I think because we have some background in the spirituality, it's able to make us be more and more stronger in what we believe in our faith. So
So
then that way, when a professor teaches certain ideology that's not the truth, it makes our faith stronger. Whereas in people who didn't grow up in a church or in a Christian home,
Yeah.
I can just imagine that is what they are going to believe, and that is what I've seen on both
Yeah,
sides.
because I'm in the middle of all this stuff, but since I had a background in my faith and like a foundation, I guess, I'm not
Right,
as easily swayed by everything I see. And so that's a good point. I think that means that the parents need to do a better job teaching
right.
these biblical values as well as the church. So if you have two of those, then you're ready to go out into the world. Because we know that things are not going to be good. It's going to
Mhm.
get worse in some
Right,
aspects. So we have to just be on our guard all the time and have the armor of God, like I was saying about Lydia.
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I mean it does start in the home ultimately. I mean, parents are responsible for majority of what, their kids are taught and what they learn.
And I
So
think that parents have to be in agreement on this. They have to agree on the at least their foundation in faith, because like it says in the Bible, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord, but a house divided cannot stand. So if you're
Yes,
divided and you don't share these beliefs, it's hard to raise the children up in the right ways. And I mean,
right.
and I think that is a big issue on the issues we see in the world today.
Right.
So
so
That's very, very true. And even there's a survey I had seen a while back where more and more Americans are losing those Christian
yeah.
values, where there's an increase in atheism or people being more and more agnostic. It's just, it's weird how more and more, the more we progress, the more and more people are starting to not really have faith in anything. And I
Mm-hmm.
think some of it can be too, as Christians, we probably might not be doing such a great job at being Christians,
Yeah.
because if we're claiming that there's a savior, we should be living our lives like he really died for us,
Yeah.
and we should be merciful. We should be quick to forgive. And I think that's the reason why more and more people in the world, their hearts are becoming more and more cold,
Mm.
because I don't think Christians are doing a great job at being Christians. Of course, we fall short, but at the same time, we got to get up and be a great example and be a great light for those who are around us and not be so hypocritical,
Mm,
because there'll be a Christian on one end that will say, don't do this. And the very thing that they're trying to teach your friends not to do, they're doing the same thing, you
yeah.
know? So I feel like we have to be strong Christians, just like the Muslim community. They are very strong and very radical in their faith. And if Christians were very strong and radical in their faith, I feel like the atheism level and agnostic level would go down.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, that's so true.
I think that, I mean, yeah, you're right. And I think that we severely distort the image of Jesus, like every day. You know, Christians just have such a bad image right now in the world. And I think part of that is being more forgiving and being more,
Right,
you know, like you were saying, quick to forgive and quick to point out what were our own flaws before the other people. Like
right.
it says in, I think, Matthew, it says, take the log out of your own eye before you look at the
Mm-hmm,
speck in someone else's. So we do need to
for sure.
all do a better job at that. And on the other side of it, we also have a job to do in making sure we're not backing down from our beliefs, because some people
For sure.
in the Christian community now are scared because the world is going one way. So they
Right,
think that they should be quiet and hide their belief, and that's the opposite of what we should be doing. We should be the light.
right,
Like we got to be those few lights that come together and light up the world, like we're called to do,
right.
the salt and the light of the world. So I think there's two sides of it, and we need to be doing a better job at both.
Yeah.
Right. Just
So
like
good.
the scripture says, we should be like does and sharp as a snake, because a snake is very, very sharp, you
Mm,
know? So Christians have to be sharp, just like Jesus is the lion and the lamb.
mm,
Christians have to be both that. You can't be too much soft and you can't be too much lion like.
yeah.
You got to be very balanced out. So then that way, when there's a thief that's coming in front of your home, you're not going to send the little lamb, you know? You just got to know how to have a balanced way of viewing things and being a balanced Christian,
Mm,
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And when Christian values and biblical values are lost and they're not at the core of everything that we do or everything that this nation does, because it once was,
yeah.
there was core Christian beliefs and everything else is lost. It's a domino effect. It really is. And
Right,
so if we don't have that core structure within us, in within this nation, then that's why we're seeing what Fadana was suggesting about how when we progress
Mm,
further and further away, it's because that we don't have that foundation anymore. We've lost it.
yeah.
exactly.
And it does start in the homes in an individual level like us, because you can't do anything by yourself. Like you're so much stronger when you have other people that share these ideas like you guys with me. Because look, if I were just trying to think like this by myself, we wouldn't take action. But
Right,
when we're together, iron sharpens iron, you know,
right,
Christians with Christians sharing the beliefs and making each other stronger in their faith instead of the other way around. You got to be really careful who you surround yourself with, because one way, yes, we need to go out to those people and be the light, but also you need to have your own, you know, close Christian group of friends that will keep you accountable for yourself. It's
Yeah.
that Bible verse that I always like to say is a cord of three strands is not easily broken, because
yes,
when you have at least three people like this, you know you can be confirmed or the other way around. You know, you can be called out on things. So it just works,
right,
and that's why I think God designed us to be like that in a
right,
community like that, and that's what's gonna bring it out into the world.
That's so good.
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think that's it. Thank you guys for coming. I think that was a great conversation. Both faith and schools, all this stuff plays a part, parents and everything. If you guys like what you're hearing here, click that subscribe button, join No Filter, because we're going to be here every single week. We'll be back next Sunday with a brand new episode. Fidana, Lydia, thank you guys for joining me. We'll see you guys next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.